A lot of star power came out to support the president's re-election efforts. And this lady here with me now is no exception, Reverend Omorosa Manigault. She, of course, was in Chicago on election night, kicking it with folks there as they celebrated President Barack Obama's win. You're joining us now here in Washington. Watch what's happening.
What's going on, Roland?
All good. So what was it like there in Chicago?
I was texting you the whole night because you were cracking us up. We were back in a room where we could actually hear some of the coverage, and yours was some of the more colorful coverage.
Well, you
so
know,
they
were talking about the marijuana initiatives being passed, and everyone was trying to be all serious, so I called the Puff Pass proposal.
That almost had me just cracking up all night. But, you know, I left Ohio. I'd been in stumping in Ohio for Obama, and then I left that day to get to Chicago in enough time to do the election night with the president and first family.
So how was it?
It was amazing. There was a lot of tension, I have to tell you, early in the night, because just how it was covered and how the states were being called, and it was very confusing for folks if they didn't understand the Electoral College.
I mean, all the early states were people were texting, tweeting me, and they were saying, "Oh my God, what's happening?" I remember Emmitt Smith was traveling from L.A. to back to Texas. He's like, "Man, what's going on?" I'm like, "Dude, chill."
Exactly.
Kentucky was never on the Obama map. Okay, all those early states that were coming in were GOP states.
Absolutely, but I had a lot of tension because I felt a lot of responsibility for delivering Ohio, just personally on the ground, the work that I did, and just all the folks that worked so hard to get people to the polls. And so we didn't go early enough for me. Everybody in the room, I felt like all eyes on me.
Okay, the election in 2008 was called at 11 p.m. This year was called at 11:17.
Yeah. It still was a very long night, but I'm very proud of what happened in Ohio and how critical my state has become to this important race, and that we delivered for the president.
Let's talk about some crazy stuff. Now, you have been on 2 different Apprentices. You had the Ultimate Merger on TV1. Donald Trump did all of those. At some point during this campaign, did you ever call him and say, "Will you shut the hell up"?
Can I tell you something very interesting? While the campaign was going, we were taping Celebrity Apprentice All-Stars. And the night that he was making this big challenge to the president, we had a boardroom.
Hold on. Which one? The dumb $5 million one? All right, because there's a bunch of them.
We were sitting across from him in the boardroom. There were 5 African-American contestants on the show, and we all were giving him the side eye, including Arsenio, who was a guest advisor that night. So he was surrounded by black folks on the day that he decided to make this challenge to the president.
But I don't get all the nonsense. I'm telling you right now, he ticked off a whole bunch of black folks with all that birther stuff and continuing throwing the stuff out there. And then his tweets on election night calling for a coup d'etat and America's going to hell in a handbasket. Just nuts.
You know, it's difficult to watch any of the Republicans these days and their reaction to losing such an important election. And Barack knows who his true supporters are. Donald Trump was never going to be a supporter of Barack Obama. Let's be very clear. And I think that Mitt Romney paid the price for teaming up with Donald Trump and this whole birther movement. And he is paying the ultimate price.
All right, so you were out on the campaign trail supporting the president. Any other, you used to work in the White House under the Clintons. So anything else you plan on getting hooked up with politics? Anybody else?
I'm staying in the pulpit. I mean, we had this whole movement getting the souls to the polls.
Right,
Did you know this?
right,
Driving folks
right.
to the polls and getting folks out. I really believe that our work in our churches are going to be continuing to be important for any political movement. You're going to have to come back to the faith base because we really make a difference.
Well, look, I talked to several pastors in the wake of the election. They were pretty much some were upset when you look at the media narrative that really focused on Latino voters, focused on LGBT voters, focused on young voters, and as if black folks were an afterthought.
Well, because there was those rumors that black pastors weren't supporting the president.
Okay, well, first of all, those are pastors nobody's ever heard of. All right? I mean, I blew those guys out of the water. I mean, that whole notion they were going to flip 25% of the black electorate. I mean, look, they talk about puff pass. That's exactly what they were doing. They were all doing puff and pass. But again, black voters were so central in Florida, in Virginia, in Ohio. And even when you talk about, although he lost North Carolina,
right,
the turnout was still huge, and the church played a central role in that.
Very central role. And when I listened to the folks in my congregation, yeah, they were hurting. Folks were hurting from an economic standpoint, from health care, from issues that we esteem as important. And some of the folks weren't speaking to those issues. and they felt the campaign wasn't speaking to their issues. But to say to a congregation, as some of those pastors said, don't vote, I think was just downright irresponsible. That didn't happen in my church, but I saw that happen in some churches across America.
I got to ask you on that point in terms of driving those issues home, do you believe you're going to see African-American pastors, you're going to see the black church, you're going to see people saying, okay, now we turned out. Now, you know, we were real quiet and calm for 4 years. Mr. President, what you got for the next 4 years?
Well, I've read some of your commentary, and you're leading that cause, that we need to have a black agenda, that there has to be a very clear black agenda. And this White House is going to have to deliver for black folks. We wait, we turned out the vote, but now we have to see some dividends as a result of our loyalty to this party.
On this show, we call it return on investment. We know you like money, like we all do, so we understand ROI.
I think that you say it more eloquently in your writings. And folks need to read some of the things that Roland has written about that, but I'm with you. There has to be a clear black agenda, and that agenda has to be presented very clearly to the president.
All right, well, appreciate it. And good to see you again. We'll hang out another time.
As well.
All right, Omarosa, thanks so much. I appreciate it.